Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to explore the sympathetic nervous system.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that adrenaline rush that your body gets.
Right.
And we're using this physiology handout from Dr. Rasha Eldeeb.
Okay.
And it's not just about fight or flight.
Right.
There's some really surprising details.
Yeah, this handout breaks down the sympathetic nervous system
Okay.
into 4 divisions.
Okay.
Cervical, cardiopulmonary,
Mm-hmm.
splanchnic, and somatic.
Okay, so like 4 teams.
Yeah, imagine them as teams
Okay.
that control different parts of your body to create that fight or flight response.
Gotcha. So do they all get called into play at the same time, or is it?
Not necessarily.
No.
It depends on the situation.
Okay.
So the response is tailored.
Okay.
Let's start with the cervical division.
Okay.
This team's all about head and neck control.
Okay.
So it all starts with nerves in your upper spinal cord, which relay signals through a point called the superior cervical ganglion.
A ganglion.
Yes.
What is it, like a nerve hub?
It's exact. Think of it as a relay station
Okay.
where all the signals kind of converge
Okay.
and then branch out to different parts of the head and neck.
Gotcha.
So from there, the cervical division orchestrates some pretty amazing effects,
Okay.
especially in the eyes.
Yeah, the handout mentioned pupil dilation.
Right.
And even like your eyes bulging a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I'm picturing like a cat when it gets startled.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That wide-eyed look is a classic sympathetic response.
Okay.
The cervical division causes your pupils to dilate.
Mm-hmm.
That's called mydriasis.
Midriasis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which lets in more light.
Right.
It widens the opening between your eyelids.
Okay.
And yes, can even cause the eyeballs to protrude slightly,
Yeah.
especially in animals.
Okay.
So it's all about enhancing your vision.
Okay, so you can see the threat.
Yeah, exactly. Assess the threat.
So it's not just about seeing better, it's about taking in more
More information.
Okay, but wouldn't all that extra blood rushing to your head make you dizzy?
That's where vasoconstriction comes in.
Okay.
So remember, the sympathetic nervous system is all about prioritize.
Yeah.
So while it's widening your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
it's also constricting blood vessels in other areas
Okay.
to redirect blood flow.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
Prioritizing the brain and the senses while still keeping everything functioning.
Exactly. And there's an interesting twist
Okay.
when it comes to the blood vessels in the brain itself.
Okay.
So even though vasoconstriction is happening elsewhere,
Mm-hmm.
the overall blood flow to the brain actually increases
Okay.
due to the higher blood pressure.
Okay.
It's like your body saying, brain needs oxygen stat.
You need your brain to figure out what to do next.
Exactly.
What about other parts of the head? Does the cervical division affect things like saliva or tears?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So ever notice how your mouth gets dry when you're nervous?
Uh-huh.
That's the cervical division at work.
Really?
It triggers the production of thick, sticky saliva.
Wow.
And it also causes vasoconstriction in the tear ducts.
Oh.
So, which is why you don't usually cry when you're in fight or flight mode.
Okay.
Tears would just blur your vision.
Interesting. So it's about conserving fluids and just focusing on survival.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Cervical division even affects those tiny muscles that make your hair stand on end.
The goosebumps.
Yeah, it's a remnant of our animal ancestors,
Oh.
you know, who use this response to appear larger to
Right.
predators.
It's so like more intimidating.
Exactly.
Okay, so goosebumps make a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
So the cervical division is focused on the head and neck.
Right.
Where do we go from there?
Let's move down to the chest
Okay.
and explore the cardiopulmonary division.
Okay.
This is where your heart and lungs take center stage, literally getting you ready for action.
All right. Cardiopulmonary division. Huh. Sounds intense.
It
Is this where things really start revving up?
Could be a bit. So this division is all about getting your heart and lungs primed for action.
Okay.
So the nerves originate in your upper chest
Mm-hmm.
and relay through ganglia in the lower neck and upper chest area.
Okay. So like pit crew prepping a race car.
Yeah, exactly like a pit crew. activating.
Okay. So what kind of tune-up are you talking about here?
Well, first let's talk about the heart.
Okay.
So the cardiopulmonary division cranks things up.
Okay.
It increases your heart rate,
Uh-huh.
makes those contractions stronger.
Okay.
It even makes the heart more excitable,
Okay.
meaning it responds faster to signals.
Wow.
So it's like switching your heart from cruise control to sports mode.
So more power, faster response.
Exactly.
But wouldn't all that extra work put a strain on the heart itself?
That's where the coronary vessels come in.
Okay.
These are the blood vessels that supply the heart muscle with oxygen.
Right.
So the cardiopulmonary division actually dilates these vessels.
Meaning they widen.
Yeah, they widen,
Okay.
allowing more blood flow to nourish the heart.
So it's like giving the engine extra fuel
Exactly.
to handle that increased workload.
Yeah.
So it's not just about pushing the heart harder.
Right.
It's making sure it can handle the pressure.
Exactly.
Okay.
And while the heart is pumping faster, the lungs have to keep up.
Right.
So the cardiopulmonary division widens the airways in your lungs.
Okay.
That's called bronchodilation.
Bronchodilation.
Yeah. Allowing more air to flow in and out.
Right. Like taking those deep breaths.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're about to do something exciting.
Or maybe a little scary.
Or a little scary.
Okay.
And it also reduces mucus production in the airways.
Okay.
Making sure those passages are clear.
So nothing's blocking the airflow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Maximum airflow.
Got it. And there's one more piece to the puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
The cardiopulmonary division also constricts the blood vessels in the lungs.
So this might seem counterintuitive.
It does seem counterintuitive.
Yeah. But it actually helps regulate blood flow and optimize gas exchange.
So making sure that oxygen gets into your bloodstream quickly and efficiently.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's all about making sure the right amount of blood is going to the right places at the right time.
Wow. It's amazing how it all works together.
It is remarkable.
Yeah.
And, this connection between the sympathetic nervous system and the lungs is actually why medications like adrenaline are used to treat asthma.
Really? Tell me more about that.
So in asthma, the airways become constricted,
Right.
making it hard to breathe.
Yeah.
So adrenaline mimics the effects of the sympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
It relaxes those airways,
Uh-huh.
allows better airflow.
So it's a great example of how understanding these physiological mechanisms can lead to effective treatments.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the head and neck with the cervical division.
Right.
We've covered the heart and lungs with the cardiopulmonary division.
Yes.
Where does this adrenaline-fueled journey take us next?
Let's head down to the abdomen and pelvis,
Okay.
where the splanchnic division is in charge.
Right.
Now, this division is all about resource management.
Resource management.
Yeah.
So deciding which bodily functions get prioritized
Right.
and which ones can wait.
Exactly.
So like the logistics team figuring out where to allocate energy and supplies.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So the splanchnic division gets its instructions from nerves in the lower chest and upper lumbar region of your spinal cord.
Okay.
These nerves are called the greater and lesser splanchnic nerves.
Okay.
And they travel to ganglia, located closer to the organs they control, or to the adrenal medulla.
So skipping the usual pit stops and going straight to the source.
Yes.
Why the special treatment?
Well, the greater splanchnic nerve has a lot of ground to cover.
Okay.
It oversees a whole range of abdominal organs.
Okay.
You got your stomach, intestines, kidneys, pancreas, liver.
Wow.
And it's constantly fine-tuning blood flow
Okay.
to make sure those organs get what they need.
Especially when resources are scarce.
Exactly.
So what happens to digestion when the sympathetic nervous system kicks in? Does it just shut down completely?
It's a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay.
While there is a general slowing down of digestion, it's not a complete shutdown.
Okay.
So the splanchnic division relaxes the muscles in your stomach and intestines.
Okay.
But it actually tightens the sphincters.
The sphincters, now remind me what those are again.
Those are those muscular rings that control the flow of food.
Okay, so it's like hitting the pause button?
Yes.
But not quite turning everything off.
Exactly.
I'm guessing this is so your body can redirect energy to more pressing matters?
Exactly. It's about prioritizing survival.
Wow.
And the greater splanchnic nerve doesn't stop there.
Okay, what else does it do?
It also triggers the release of stored blood from your spleen.
From the spleen?
Yeah. Think of it like having an emergency reserve tank
Okay.
of oxygen-rich blood.
Wow, that can be deployed when needed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Our bodies are like walking survival machines.
They are.
Yeah.
With all these backup systems in place.
And then there's the liver.
Yes, the liver.
Okay.
Where the splanchnic division kicks off the process of glycogenolysis.
Glycogenolysis.
Yes.
Okay.
Breaking down stored glycogen into glucose for a quick energy boost.
So it's like flipping a switch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To activate your body's emergency fuel supply.
Wow. But the real star of the show when it comes to the splanchnic division is the adrenal medulla.
Ah, yes, the adrenal medulla.
That's where adrenaline comes from, right?
You got it.
Like the stuff that gives you that jolt.
Exactly.
The fight or flight.
Yeah, that fight or flight jolt.
Okay.
So the adrenal medulla is like a specialized factory
Okay.
churning out adrenaline,
Uh-huh.
also known as epinephrine,
Right?
and its close cousin, norepinephrine,
Okay.
and it sits right on top of your kidneys.
Okay.
And it's directly controlled by the greater splanchnic nerve.
So it's like the sympathetic nervous system's secret weapon.
It is. First, It kicks things into gear with its own nerve signals.
Right.
And then it calls in the big guns,
The big guns, adrenaline.
adrenaline, to really amplify the
Yeah.
response.
Remember how we talked about 2 peaks in blood pressure during fight or flight?
Mm-hmm.
The first peak is from the heart pumping faster,
Right.
blood vessels constricting.
Yes.
That second peak, that's adrenaline kicking in.
That's the adrenaline
Okay.
boosting those effects even further.
Wow. Okay, so that's the greater splanchnic nerve
Yes.
and the adrenal medulla.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other one, the lesser splanchnic nerve?
Right, the lesser splanchnic nerves.
What does that control?
So that focuses on the pelvic organs,
Okay.
and it's all about putting non-essential functions on hold.
So prioritizing survival over...
Well, let's just say things that can wait.
Okay, things that can wait.
Yes.
Got it, survival first.
Okay.
So what kind of pause button are we talking about here?
Well, similar to what we saw in the digestive tract,
Mhm.
the lesser splanchnic nerve relaxes the bladder and rectum
Okay.
while tightening their sphincters.
Okay.
It also constricts blood vessels in the pelvic area,
Okay.
leading to the inhibition of erection.
Makes sense. Not exactly a time for romance when your body thinks you're in danger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, there are also some gender-specific effects.
Okay, like
So
what?
in males, the lesser splanchnic nerve triggers the contraction of muscles involved in ejaculation.
Okay.
In females, the effects on the uterus vary,
Okay.
depending on the menstrual cycle,
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy, and hormone levels.
So it's a bit more complex in females.
Yeah. Different responses depending on the situation.
It's like the sympathetic nervous system is constantly adapting,
It is.
fine-tuning its response based on all these different factors.
You're catching on.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all response.
Right.
It's about tailoring the reaction to
Okay.
the specific demands of the moment.
All right, so we've explored the head,
Yes.
the chest,
Wow.
the abdomen and pelvis. What's left? Where else does this sympathetic symphony take us?
Let's wrap up our journey with the somatic division,
Okay.
where the sympathetic nervous system meets your muscles and skin,
Okay.
preparing you for actual physical action.
The somatic division, huh?
It-
I'm ready to flex some mental muscles here and learn about how this division gets us moving.
We'll get ready for some action because this is where the sympathetic nervous system meets your skeletal muscles,
Okay.
the ones you use for voluntary movement.
Right.
So the nerves for this division run alongside the somatic nerves that control those muscles.
So they're like parallel systems
Exactly.
working in sync.
Working in sync.
Gotcha.
Now, on the skin, we see similar effects as with the cervical division.
Okay, like what?
Vasoconstriction to conserve
Oh.
heat,
Okay.
increase sweat production to cool you down,
Mm-hmm.
and even goosebumps.
Right, okay.
But it's in those skeletal muscles where things get really fascinating.
All right. Lay it on me. What's happening in the muscles?
Well, here's where it gets a little paradoxical.
All right.
Skeletal muscles actually receive 2 types of nerve fibers from the sympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
Ones that constrict blood vessels and others that dilate them.
Wait, so it can do both?
It can do both.
That seems counterintuitive.
It does.
Yeah, why would it constrict blood flow to the muscles when you need them for action?
It all comes down to context.
Okay.
So imagine a situation where you've lost a lot of blood.
Okay.
Constricting blood vessels in your muscles helps raise your overall blood pressure
Uh-huh.
and maintain circulation to vital organs.
So it's like a triage situation.
Exactly.
Okay, it makes sense, but what about during exercise, when you
When-
need those muscles to perform?
So in those cases, the sympathetic nervous system flips the switch
Okay.
and dilates those blood vessels.
So it delivers more blood and oxygen to your hardworking muscles.
Exactly. It's all about adapting to the specific demands of the situation.
Our bodies are so adaptable.
They are.
It's incredible the handout mentions something called the Orbelli effect.
Yes.
What is that?
So the Orbelli effect is this amazing phenomenon
Okay.
where sympathetic stimulation actually enhances muscle contraction.
Mm-hmm.
It delays fatigue
Okay.
and speeds up recovery.
So that feeling of getting a second wind during a tough workout,
Exactly.
that burst of energy.
Yeah, that's partly thanks to the sympathetic nervous system.
So it's not just adrenaline coursing through your veins.
It's the direct interaction
Wow.
of the sympathetic nervous system with your muscles,
Okay.
optimizing their performance and
Yeah.
making you feel like you can push harder and go further.
Mind-blowing. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But the handout also mentions something called Horner's syndrome,
Right.
which seems to be about what happens when things go wrong
Yeah.
with the sympathetic nervous system.
So Horner's syndrome occurs when those cervical sympathetic nerve fibers we talked about earlier are injured,
Oh, okay.
disrupting the signals to the head and neck.
So it's like a localized disruption.
Exactly.
Okay, of the sympathetic nervous system. What kind of symptoms are we talking about?
So one of the most noticeable is ptosis,
Ptosis.
Yeah, which is a drooping eyelid.
Okay.
This happens because the muscle that lifts the eyelid is weakened.
Okay.
Another symptom is meiosis.
Meiosis.
Yeah, a constricted pupil,
Okay.
because the muscle that dilates the pupil isn't getting its usual signals.
So it's the opposite of those wide-eyed effects we talked about earlier.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And because sweat glands are also controlled by the sympathetic nervous system,
Okay.
people with Horner's syndrome might experience a lack of sweating
Hemochromatosis.
on the affected side.
Okay.
The skin might also appear warmer and redder than usual due to the lack of vasoconstriction.
Wow. So it's like a visible manifestation
It is.
of the sympathetic nervous system being offline
Exactly.
in that area. Are there any other symptoms?
Sometimes there can be a slight sinking of the eyeball backward into the socket.
Okay.
It's not as noticeable in humans as it is in animals,
Right.
but it can occur.
It's amazing to think how this one system, the sympathetic nervous system, affects so many different parts of the body.
It really does. It highlights how pervasive and important it is.
Yeah.
Even though we don't always consciously think about it,
Right.
the sympathetic nervous system is constantly working behind the scenes.
Yeah. Regulating our heart rate, breathing, digestion, muscle function,
All of that.
so much more.
So much more.
So what does all this mean for our listener out there in podcast land?
Well, it means you have this incredibly intricate and powerful system inside you,
Okay.
ready to help you handle whatever challenges come your way.
Right.
It's not just about fight or flight.
Right.
It's about adapting and thriving in a constantly changing world.
And there you have it, folks. We've gone from a physiology handout to a full-blown exploration of the sympathetic nervous system. Hopefully next time your heart starts racing or you feel those goosebumps, you'll have a whole new appreciation for the complex and fascinating dance of nerves and hormones that's happening inside you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.